This is a complete fantasy. A narcissist does not learn from logic, civil discussion, or moral appeals. They learn only through consequences. If you ignore this core reality, you are setting yourself up for unending frustration, deep self-doubt, and profound emotional burnout. So, how do you actually apply this awareness of their methods? First, you must start watching patterns of action instead of listening to words. Narcissists are experts at voicing exactly what you long to hear. They will promise to change. They will pretend to feel regret. They will even play the victim to keep you bound to their drama. But the critical question is, what do their actions consistently show you? If there is a pattern of lying, manipulating, or disrespect, then that is the absolute truth of the situation, no matter what verbal promises are made. Second, you must recognize that narcissists use clear psychological tactics to keep their control. One of the most subtle and damaging is gaslighting, making you lose trust in your own reality. They will firmly deny saying things, even with proof. They'll subtly rewrite history, adjusting the story until you find yourself apologizing for something that wasn't your fault. The more energy you spend in these arguments, the more control they gain, because the very act of defending your position puts you in a subservient place. You are reacting to their agenda, meaning they are setting the rules of the discussion. Another frequent strategy is intermittent reinforcement, which is mixing moments of affection with cruelty in unpredictable cycles. This is incredibly potent because it mimics the core mechanism of addiction. If someone is always unkind, you'll eventually pull away. But if they occasionally offer moments of warmth, your mind becomes obsessed with the reward, belief, desperately hoping that if you just behave correctly, you'll get more of the good and less of the bad. This creates a harmful reliance where you stay not because the relationship is nourishing, but because you are chasing those brief flashes of warmth, which were really just a tool of their control. Then there is projection. The narcissist will accuse you of the very faults they possess. If they are being untruthful, they'll call you a liar. Or if they are emotionally volatile, they will claim you are the one being irrational. This achieves two things. It distracts from their own behavior, and it keeps you so consumed with defending yourself that you can't see what's truly going on. Understanding these methods isn't about becoming distrustful. It's about clarity. It's about shedding the illusions and seeing the facts as they are. Because once you see the game, you stop being a player. And when you stop playing, the narcissist loses their power over you. So if you want to stop being controlled, manipulated, and depleted, the first step is simply see the narcissist for who they really are, not who you wish they could be. The truth, even if difficult, is always more useful than a comforting falsehood. One of the most devastating traps you can fall into with a narcissist is seeking their approval. I don't just mean overtly trying to impress them. I mean the subtle, almost automatic ways you change your behavior to dodge their criticism, to earn a tiny bit of their acknowledgement, or to finally, just once, be treated with the respect you deserve. This trap is easy to fall into because we are all fundamentally programmed for social connection. When we put effort into a relationship, personal, work, or family, we expect at a basic level that our contributions will be recognized, that if we just explain ourselves well, if we show our loyalty, our good intent, our patience, the narcissist will eventually acknowledge it and change their behavior. But that moment never arrives. This is because narcissists don't operate on a principle of give and take. They see your efforts not as a reason to respect you, but as proof that they control you. Every time you bend yourself into a pretzel to avoid their disapproval, you confirm their power. Every time you wait for their validation, you hand over control of your own self-worth. If you think there's some magical blend of words or actions that will finally make them see your true value, you are wasting your time, because for them, the goalposts are always shifting. The moment you think you've done enough, they'll introduce a new standard you are never intended to meet. The key realization is this: it's not about you. Their inability to treat you with respect is not a judgment of your worth. It is a direct result of their deep-seated psychological issues. The narcissist's self-image is fragile, built on a shaky belief of superiority that must be constantly supported. They cannot allow themselves to be wrong, because that would shatter their own illusion. They cannot allow others to be genuinely seen or valued, because that would mean giving up their control. So they go through life extracting, manipulating, and minimizing others, as it is the only way they can maintain their overblown self-image. Once you truly internalize this, the right path becomes clear. You must detach emotionally, mentally, and where possible, physically. And this starts with one crucial action. You must stop seeking their approval in any form. This doesn't mean being rude or retaliating with meanness. It simply means removing yourself from the psychological drama they are trying to ensnare you in. How does this look in everyday life? Belief. It means you stop justifying yourself to them. A narcissist loves an argument, because an argument confirms that their opinion holds weight. The moment you begin to defend your actions, you've already lost, because the conversation is now centered around their biased view of you rather than your own inherent reality. Words: stop explaining yourself to someone who is only listening for ammunition. If they twist your words, let them. If they misrepresent your intention, so be it. Their view of you is not a problem you need to solve. It also means letting go of the need for closure. This is incredibly tough. We all crave a final resolution, that moment where the narcissist admits their wrongdoing, apologizes, and gives you the sense of fairness you've been waiting for. But that moment will not come, and the longer you pursue it, the longer you stay trapped. The only closure you will ever get is the one you give yourself the decision to walk away, to stop engaging, to accept that their acknowledgement is not required for your self-worth to be whole. And perhaps most significantly, it means redefining your source of validation. If you've spent years or even decades adapting your sense of self to meet the expectations of a person fundamentally incapable of valuing you, it's time to take that power back. Your worth is not a fragile thing that depends on another person's recognition. It is something you must claim for yourself. The instant you do, the narcissist loses the very thing that made them powerful over you in the first place, because the most profound act of rebellion against a narcissist is simply to stop needing them to see you and start seeing yourself instead. One of the most dangerous miscalculations you can make with a narcissist is believing that playing by the usual rules will keep you safe, that if you are fair, logical, and keep giving them the benefit of the doubt, they will eventually reciprocate. But this assumption is based on a false premise, that the narcissist values fairness, responds to reason, or is even participating in the same game as you. They are not. A narcissist operates from a fundamentally different psychological framework. Most people enter a conflict, a disagreement with a friend, a difficult chat with a partner, or a workplace issue, assuming there is a shared objective reality, and that if both sides honestly present their views, the truth will surface and some form of agreement can be found. But a narcissist has no interest in agreement. Their interest is in winning. This is where you must stop making the mistake of believing that being the nobler person, being endlessly patient, or forever understanding will lead to a breakthrough. It absolutely will not, because to a narcissist, your eagerness to engage, to keep explaining, to keep justifying your actions, and to keep hoping for a rational answer is not seen as an inner strength. It's seen as a weakness. It's an opening. It confirms to them that they still have a hold on your mind, your emotions, and your choices. It tells them you are still playing their game, even if you don't realize it. So what should you do instead? You must stop reacting in the way they expect you to. You must stop giving them the emotional energy they desperately feed on. Because here is a crucial point: narcissists are not self-sufficient. They do not generate their own inner stability, their own identity, or their own feeling of self-worth. They extract it from others. This is why they provoke, manipulate, and manufacture conflict where none should exist. It's all a desperate attempt to keep you engaged, because engagement equals power. If you want to neutralize a narcissist, you must strip away that power. And that begins with mastering something both simple and incredibly difficult: emotional detachment. I don't mean totally suppressing your feelings. That's unhealthy. What I mean is developing the skill to remain unaffected by their deliberate provocations, to recognize that their attempts to guilt, bait, or pull you into yet another cycle of argument and self-defense are nothing more than a desperate strategy to keep you under their influence. This is where the concept of gray rocking becomes vital. It's a psychological technique where you make yourself as uninteresting, as unemotional, and as disengaged as possible when dealing with a narcissist. They thrive on dramatic reactions, whether it's anger, frustration, sadness, or even affection, but because reactions mean they are still in control. But if you refuse to take the bait, if you stop giving them the dramatic emotional display they crave, they lose their leverage, they get bored, they move on. But let's be honest, this is not easy. It is not easy to sit in the presence of someone deliberately trying to provoke you and refuse to react. It is not easy to hear ridiculous accusations and choose not to defend yourself. It is not easy to watch them twist reality and smear your name and simply say, believe whatever you want. But it is absolutely necessary, because every time you engage, every time you fight back, every time you try to validate yourself to someone who has no real interest in the truth, you are fueling the very dynamic that is exhausting you. This is a form of powerful psychological self-discipline. It's the ability to say, I do not require this person's validation. I do not need to correct their false story. I do not need to win their approval or prove my worth in their eyes. And when you achieve that level of detachment, you become untouchable, because a narcissist cannot control what they cannot provoke. Ultimately, the most powerful response to a narcissist is not fury or even a direct confrontation. It is indifference. When they realize they can no longer pull you into their chaos, they lose interest. And that is when you finally reclaim your freedom. One of the greatest hazards you face when interacting with a narcissist is getting stuck in the unending cycle of conflict they generate. You may think that if you can just make them see your side, if you can finally prove your point, if you can get them to acknowledge their poor conduct, then everything will be resolved. This is a mirage. A narcissist doesn't argue to find a solution, they argue to dominate. Their real goal is not to uncover the truth, to reach a shared understanding, or even to coherently prove their own stance. Their goal is to keep you involved, to keep you emotionally invested, to keep you reacting, because as long as you are reacting, you are still in their game, and as long as you are in their game, they maintain their hold over you. Consider how This typically plays out. You bring up a legitimate issue, something they did that was insulting, deceitful, or hurtful. A normal person, even if they disagreed, would at least try to understand your perspective. They would engage honestly. But what does the narcissist do? They deflect. They shift the blame. They bring up an irrelevant offense you committed months ago. They twist your words. They accuse you of being the one with the problem. And before you know it, you are no longer discussing their original action. You are aggressively defending your own character. And that is where they win, because the moment you start defending yourself, the focus of the conversation is no longer their behavior. It is now about proving your innocence. They have successfully flipped the situation. Now you are effectively on trial, spending all your mental and emotional energy justifying yourself while they observe you drain yourself in a battle that was never designed to be fair. So how do you put a stop to this? How do you remove yourself from this psychological battleground? You learn to disengage. You stop defending yourself. You stop explaining. You stop trying to win a debate that was rigged from the start. This does not mean you let them treat you badly. It doesn't mean you tolerate abuse or stay silent against injustice. It means you refuse to take part in a rigged game. It means you establish boundaries that are non-negotiable. A narcissist thrives on emotional turmoil and will use every ounce of energy to keep you off balance. If you say, I won't accept being spoken to that way, they will push harder to see if you truly mean it. If you say, I won't participate in this type of argument, they will try to provoke you until you break your own rule, because if they can get you to react, they win. They have proven that your limits are just empty words. Therefore, your task is to ensure they are not. Your task is to follow through. If you say you are ending the conversation, then end it. If you say you won't tolerate disrespect, then don't. If you say you won't explain yourself, then stop explaining, because the instant a narcissist realizes that their standard tactics no longer work on you, they begin to lose interest. You are no longer the easy target they thought you were. But here is the most challenging part. Remaining firm with your boundaries requires you to tolerate emotional discomfort. It means resisting the intense urge to correct their lies about you. It means resisting the urge to defend yourself when they twist the truth. It means accepting that they will never acknowledge the truth because they choose not to, and that you are okay with that. Your peace, your integrity, your self-respect. These things do not rely on their acknowledgement. They depend on your ability to walk away from pointless conflicts, to refuse to be drawn in, to prioritize your own well-being over the illusion of winning an argument. Because in the end, the true victory is not proving a narcissist wrong. It is proving to yourself that you no longer need their approval at all. There is a tough reality you must fully accept when dealing with a narcissist. They will never respect your boundaries unless you enforce them. And enforcement does not mean continually explaining your boundaries, hoping they will finally understand. It doesn't mean making empty threats you fail to follow through on. It doesn't mean hoping they will suddenly gain self-awareness and begin treating you with the respect you deserve. It means action. It means consequences. You see, a narcissist does not perceive boundaries the way a healthy person does. A healthy person, when told your behavior is unacceptable and I won't allow it, will at least pause and reflect. They might not agree, but they will respect your right to draw a line. A narcissist, however, sees your boundaries as a direct challenge, an obstacle to overcome, a test of how much they can get away with. And they will continue to push until they find the breaking point. This is precisely why half measures fail. If you set a boundary but do not enforce it, all you have truly done is teach the narcissist that your words are meaningless, that if they push hard enough, apply enough emotional pressure, or create enough guilt, you will back down. And once they know that, once they see your limits are negotiable, they will exploit that weakness relentlessly. So what does genuine enforcement look like? It means being ready to end conversations that cross the line. It means removing yourself from toxic situations, even if it creates temporary awkwardness or discomfort. It means realizing that you don't have to argue, negotiate, or explain yourself forever. You simply have to act. And this is where most people struggle because action is difficult. It is uncomfortable. And it comes with a cost. Setting and enforcing boundaries means accepting that the narcissist will react badly. And they will. They will accuse you of being selfish, cruel, or unreasonable. They will play the victim. They will lash out because their interest is not in respecting your boundaries. Their sole interest is in making you feel guilty enough to drop them. This is the moment when you must be strong enough to tolerate the discomfort of doing what is necessary. You must accept that when you start enforcing boundaries, the narcissist will escalate their behavior. If they previously used subtle manipulation, they might move to outright attacks. If they relied on guilt trips, they might play the victim more dramatically. If they used charm, they might switch to open hostility. This is known as an extinction burst, a last-ditch effort to regain power when they realize their usual tactics are failing. And this is the moment where many people falter because the pressure feels overwhelming. The accusations, the guilt, the manipulation, it all intensifies. If you are not prepared for it, you'll cave thinking, maybe I'm being too hard. Maybe I should just explain one more time. And the second you do, the narcissist knows they still have control. They'll temporarily back off, pretend things are fine, and then slowly but surely begin to push again. The only way to break this cycle is to stop giving them a reason to believe they can change your mind, to make it clear through action, not simply words, that your boundaries are real, are not up for negotiation, and that violating them has consistent consequences. That might mean cutting all communication, disengaging emotionally, or refusing to respond to their provocations. Whatever the situation demands, the key is consistency, because in the end, boundaries are not about controlling the narcissist's behavior. You will never control them. They will always do what serves their ego, their control, and their power. Boundaries are about controlling your own behavior, about deciding what you will and will not accept, about choosing to remove yourself from situations that deplete you, and about prioritizing your own well-being over the illusion that you can somehow change them. And when you finally do that, when you enforce your limits with unwavering resolve, something remarkable occurs. The narcissist's grip on you weakens. Their power fades. You begin to reclaim something they were never meant to have in the first place: your self-determination, your dignity, and your peace. And that is a victory worth any discomfort. One of the most painful but necessary truths you must grasp when dealing with a narcissist is the understanding that they will never give you closure. That apology you're longing for, that moment where they finally acknowledge the emotional damage they inflicted, it is not coming. And the longer you wait for it, the longer you remain caught in their psychological trap. Because here's the reality. No, narcissists do not reflect on their actions in a healthy way. They do not lie awake at night wrestling with remorse, wondering how to make amends. They do not review the past and think, maybe I went too far. That is simply not how their mind works. Their sole focus is not the truth. Their focus is maintaining control. If that requires rewriting history, if it means making you the villain, if it means distorting reality so thoroughly that you even start to doubt yourself, then that is precisely what they will do. And if you are not vigilant, you will waste years, maybe decades, attempting to extract something from them that they are fundamentally incapable of giving. You will hold onto the hope that if you just say the perfect thing, if you just prove your side convincingly enough, they will finally see. They won't. They won't. Not because the truth is unclear, but because admitting it would mean surrendering the power they hold over you. So you face a choice. You can keep chasing an apology that will never materialize. You can keep replaying past conversations, imagining different endings, trying to make sense of something that was never intended to be logical. Or you can decide that your own healing is not dependent on them. You can decide that closure is something you give to yourself. This is challenging because we are hardwired to seek resolution. Our minds crave order and a clean narrative. When someone harms us, betrays our trust, and inflicts lasting wounds, we want acknowledgement, we want justice. We want the story to conclude cleanly. But life is complex, and with a narcissist, the ending you desire, the one where they finally take responsibility, is an illusion. What should you do instead? You must reclaim your own narrative. You stop waiting for them to set you free, and you set yourself free. This involves fully accepting that some people will never understand the harm they caused you and choosing to move forward anyway. It means letting go of the mistaken belief that their validation is required for your recovery. It is not. It never was. And that is where true strength lies. Because as long as you are waiting for them to acknowledge the truth, they still have a hold on you. As long as you are hoping for a moment of clarity from them, they still dictate your emotional state. But the moment you stop seeking their validation, the moment you decide that their opinion, their version of events, their refusal to see reality is irrelevant, that is the moment you truly win. That is the moment they lose their grip. And here is the paradox: the less you need closure from them,